It's such a perfect fit for you, or at least in my opinion, it was. Because like Andy, you're going to put people in motion, you're going to misdirection, you're going to be able to get, different things going on. And you've had a mobile quarterback with Mitch, and so that's good. But this guy is a different animal. Now, he is an absolute bear, 225 pounds, runs 4.4. I mean, he can throw it a mile. I had him third. I did. I'll just tell you right where I had him. I had him as the third best quarterback in this draft. Where did you guys see him? I mean, is that far off? I was really stunned that he made it as far down the draft board as he did.
Yeah, no, we again, going through this process of all these quarterbacks, they all have their different strengths and weaknesses. And really with this draft class, these 5 guys at the top, they all had really, really good strengths. I mean, to sit there and say there's 5 quarterbacks that we all felt like have a really great opportunity to be franchise quarterbacks, that's rare. That doesn't happen a lot. And even with that said, as you know, I mean, the numbers speak to it that even with those 5 guys that got drafted there in those top 15 picks, there's still realistically, when you look at it, now hopefully all 5 teams can break that, but there's still a slim chance of all those guys being future franchise quarterbacks for these teams. I mean, that's just the simple facts. That's the numbers. The numbers speak that over the last 30 years. So now for us, I say, okay, well, where'd you have them? Well, we have our own way of ranking these guys, and we all have, we go through and we talk about the strengths and the weaknesses, but then also the fit and how it works for us and the person, who they are as a person. And so again, I just go back to, without getting into the other 4 guys, Justin for us was a major consensus. Everyone felt so great about him and the fit, who he was as a person, all his traits as a player. It just felt too good to be true. And so now that whole draft and develop deal, this is where it's a major challenge and opportunity for myself as a head coach and for our coaching staff with Coach John DiFilippo, and Coach Laser and myself to make sure that we do everything we can to teach Justin how to play quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, continue to coach Andy and Nick and use their strengths. But now we got to develop Justin. And so the $1 million question is, well, when's it going to be? Is it going to be in training camp? Is it going to be in the first game of the year? Is it going to be the 7th game, the end of the year? Is it next year? For us, we put together this plan. And the plan is that Andy is the starter. And Andy's played 10 great years in this league, or nine great years in this league, and had a lot of success. And we're excited to be able to have him come in here and do what we think he can do, but yet also teach Justin how to play quarterback, all of us together, and insulate him so that he can maximize his strengths. And so we'll have that plan and put it together, but it's going to be really, really fun to have a preseason and be able to see what Justin can do in these preseason games.
You're doing all this with a serious face, and I'm sitting over here smiling. All I'm thinking is, come on, dude, put him in on opening Sunday Night Football against the Rams. Let's go, baby. Let's see what he's got. But I know you were part of the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, right? And their plan was he really didn't play until the final game of the year. And when he played, I think the whole world went, uh-oh, he really does have it. And how much does that influence your thinking here?
Yeah, no, there's a lot that goes to that. Now, and I think there's 2 things the way I look at it. Number one is it's very easy for me to be able to explain to Ryan and our coaching staff and everybody else in this building that I lived that. I was in every one of those meetings with Alex and Patrick and Coach Reed. I lived that every day from the day we drafted Patrick to the day we had our first meeting with Alex to the last game, playoff game against the Tennessee Titans that season. And I got to see how that process went. And so I use that and we use that as a blueprint. Does that mean it's going to be exactly that way for us in Chicago? No. And I think that's where sometimes when I get criticized or we get criticized and you say, well, it's not the same thing. Andy's not Alex. Andy wasn't here for 5 years or 4 years like Alex was to build those relationships. That's 100% true. But at the same point in time, in my opinion, I do think that it's very easy to just take every rookie quarterback. And there's good examples of it, of throwing them in right away, week one, and those guys taking off and succeeding. But there's also bad examples of it. And so when we have an experienced quarterback like Andy that can come in here and learn and do things, and he can prove to us and show to us that he can win football games with us, that's how we're going to be evaluating things. And so in a perfect world, Andy comes in and he wins football games and we're having success. And Justin is growing and learning on how to play the quarterback position and not being thrown into the fire without, when he's not ready. And then that goes to the next part, Cris, is like, we knew in 2017, there were some plays that Patrick made in training camp. There were some plays that Patrick made in the preseason games. And there was plays that Patrick made against our defense for the look team on offense during the season that you just kind of know. And you get that look from Coach Reed. He looks out of the corner of his eye to you in practice that, yeah, that was a pretty good throw. And you know it. But until he gets his chance, we don't know when that was. In 2017, it was the last game of the regular season against Denver. And he had a great game. We pulled him in the fourth quarter, had a couple fumbles. I'm talking about Patrick. And we put Patrick back in. He goes right down the field and wins the game-winning field goal. And, the game meant nothing. We didn't have to win it, but it showed everybody what he was. And then the following year, Kansas City traded Alex and Patrick threw for 1,700 touchdowns. A really, really, really solid, good plan for both quarterbacks. And Patrick, I think if you asked him, would tell you that year right there taught him so much on how to watch tape, on how to practice like a pro, how to take care of your body. He just sat back and observed. He didn't run his mouth. He didn't try to come in and be all cocky and take it over from Alex. He just did he stayed in his lane, and he earned the respect from his teammates the right way and his coaches. And when he had his opportunity, he took advantage of it. For Justin, he's doing the same thing right now. But at the same point in time, don't think that Patrick and or Justin don't want to come in here and compete, and do everything they can to be the best quarterback and that number one guy. I mean, that's why they're at where they're at right now, because they're major competitors and they're driven inside with that DNA that just not everybody has. Justin has it, and that's what's pretty cool.
He definitely has it. And I'll tell you when I saw it, Joe Burrow, when he was drafted by the Bengals, came in here in his first press conference. He wasn't talking about which commercials he was going to do or which car or any of that stuff, right? This guy didn't have a smile on his face, and you could just tell he was ready for business from day one. I saw after he was picked, Justin's interview, and you could almost see the chip on his shoulder already beginning to grow, but you could also see that he was a serious-minded guy, that he was coming in for business. And I know that's pretty much carried over so far in your practices, hasn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. And it goes back, in my opinion, to how Justin was raised. And I really have a lot of respect for his parents and the way they raised him. When you meet his dad, you realize that, his background in military and as a former police officer. And so you can see that. And that he was taught great values on how to treat people. He's competitive. His mom is just really cool and awesome and just a nice lady. And so both of them together, the values they've taught him on how to handle people. That's the other part of this that a lot of people forget and don't understand. And so I think you saw that at his first press conference. You see a kid that there might not be a lot of giggling and smiling because he is majorly competitive. He has this inner drive in him that it's just different. And so when you get him in a setting where it's just one-on-one and you're teaching football, that smile comes out and he'll crack a smile. When he's in the locker room with his teammates, he'll crack jokes. We had some fun last week, our day 3 of OTAs, and we had a lighter practice at the end, and we had a little dance contest with 2 rookies, one from O and one from D. And they started dancing, having the contest, and the music was playing. We were outside on the football field, and out of nowhere, to help his offensive partner is Justin, who comes in and starts dancing in front of everybody. And it's just like, you know, the outsiders probably think that he doesn't have that in him. But when you're in this tight world of friendships and people and your teammates, and your true personality comes out. And I think that's what's pretty cool. And so we feel that on the field. And it's the same thing with Andy, like with Andy and Justin, the relationship that they're building right now in this meeting room is really neat. Again, it reminds me of the way Alex and Patrick were. It took a little time the first couple of weeks, but now they've broken that barrier down. Now they both feel comfortable watching practice together, asking questions. I mean, Andy's pumping up Justin. Hey, great throw, man. That's a hell of a throw right there. Way to use your feet. Hey, on the cadence, give a little more rhythmic to your white 80. Don't be so choppy. So like little things like that they're helping each other out with, and they're building this friendship and this bond that's just really strong. And Nick's the same way. Nick's in there too, helping out. And so what a great quarterback room for a guy like Justin to come into, to have two quarterbacks like Andy and Nick. Experience they've had. They're both super good people. They have good hearts, and they want to help Justin out. To me, that's a win all around.
Yeah, I mean, you can't find two better guys really than Andy and Nick. I mean, they're just rock solid and have all the experience in the world. But the question now becomes, how's he looked? I mean, you've gotten a firsthand look now. It's one thing to go back and watch his college tape and, you know, all this stuff about, you know, he could read it better. He could get it out of his hand better. Ohio State with a lot of the read routes down the field may slow him down, all those things. But now you're seeing him in the Chicago Bears offense, in your offense. You've played this position. You have coached this position. You know this position inside and out. How does he look? How is it, man? Are you getting as advertised?
No, we are, and he looks good. And but what's really neat is that we realize that he's going to continue to look even better and better after every practice goes by. He had a really good practice yesterday, our 6th OTA day. The ball was just coming out of his hand really nice. He was very accurate. His timing with his feet on play actions in the drop back game, you could just see, like, to him, even in this short time, Cris, the game is slowing down to him, which is what you want at that quarterback position. Can the defense and can the speed of the game feel a little bit slower? From the start when he got here, he's just trying to worry about how to call play, how to snap the ball, and then he's just playing. Right now, he's taking it to the level, and I can see it. We can see it. Or now he's understanding, hey, post-snap, that rotation is going from quarters back to cover 3. It just went from split safety to one high safety. And your rules change as a wide receiver. Your rules change as a quarterback with your progression. And so now, are you going back there to where you're supposed to go and still making the throw? Yesterday, he had a really good day. And so that's where you get excited, and you just know as a coach, when you, like Flip's putting in all this time with teaching it, when you see it happen on the field, that's when there's growth. That's when there's development.
Okay. How insane has your life become? And are you allowed to even talk about your children or your wife anymore when you go meet anybody? Or is this the only topic of conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm going to all these baseball tournaments for my 4 sons that all play, or 3 of my 4 play baseball, and it gets to be pretty crazy. I would say it's safe to say that the city of Chicago is super excited about our situation right now in the quarterback room with Justin. And again, for me, it's great to have that feeling. There's a positivity, there's a good vibe. But we also too, like, and I remind everybody, and I know this is where the hard part comes in, like you're asking me right now, is we just have to trust the plan and just trust the process of how this is going to go with him, because we all understand that he's our future. We know that. That's what we want. But how are we going to get to that point the right way? So it's best for the Chicago Bears and best for Justin. And so that's where the total instant gratification world that we live in right now has to just chill just a little as we put together this plan that we have. We insulate them. We make sure, like you said earlier, there's not a lot of stuff off the side of the field he's just literally insulated with football so that he can grow and the best quarterback he can be as fast as or as soon as he can be that guy. And so when I'm out and about, everyone's asking about him and they're fired up and excited, and there's just a good energy right now. And that we want to use that. We want to feed off of that, not just with Justin, but our entire team.
You know, it's really interesting, and I've tried to explain this to some people, like as a rookie receiver coming in, I had a lot to learn, and I screwed up more plays in my rookie year than I probably did the next 7 years after that combined. I mean, you just do. There are things that are going to happen that you just aren't going to know. For the quarterback position, it's probably 10 to 20 times that, you know, what the position player is going to have to know. And he has to get in the huddle, and things are going to change. You know, preseason is one thing, and you get vanilla coverages and vanilla fronts. And then all of a sudden, here we are on opening day against the Rams if he's in the game, and man, they're coming from everywhere, and I've never seen that coverage before. You know, so mentally, explain the process of how far he has to get before you would feel comfortable with him being in the game and really sort of protecting himself at that point.
Yeah. So mentally for us, it's being able to see how he's processing in practice with like the mechanics of in the huddle, up to the line of scrimmage, guys getting set at the right position. The wide receivers have the right splits. They're on or off the ball. The play clock's coming down. Are you setting the protection a certain way? Are you putting a guy in motion and then snapping the ball and then making the throw? How many of those plays in a row when we watch in practice, are there a lot more plays that are good, or are there a lot more plays that aren't so good? And like, we want to make sure that as he's making plays, he's staying, you know, within the concept of the progression of the play. But then let's face it too, like a lot of these quarterbacks that are really good and take it to the next level and are special, they make plays on their own. They might make it the best play call in the world. And so when you start having some of those plays where you can just let his talent shine and do what he does best, which is just play with confidence, play fast, and just be himself. When that all starts happening and you don't feel like he's playing like a robot, you'll know that, right? Things will start happening. He'll start kind of, doing his own thing. We'll feel that. And I think mentally it starts with, it's really everything up until the snap. Are you doing everything the right way? And the only way that we can truly evaluate that is you can do it in training camp, but really those preseason games will be really, really important to see how that happens. And then he can just cut it loose and play.